Phil Phails at writing a theme song. He doesn't know the words to sing. If success is the flash in the pan, my friend, then failure's most everything. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. I'll invite us through a little practice that I've been doing with folks before going on to like more long format, like who is Cole and how did he get here, and learning about photography through that discussion, and that is movement. Like, just do silly movements with me. We can do this. I've been doing this with a couple of folks. It's good. We do the mirror. It's called Mirror Cat. Yeah. Where you mirror me, both in your face. Make sure you got okay. And then at some point in this game, like you'll take the reins.
Oh, really?
And I'll start to mirror you at some point, just naturally.
All right.
You're climbing, dude.
Yeah, you can feel it.
That's great. And so the idea is like, we'll take a deep breath and just release that. Just a little invitation to ground ourselves. We've got lights all around us, cameras.
I like that.
And that that for me can bring some overwhelm. Mm-hmm. And so this is a practice I've been inviting into these discussions to ground and maybe reset, have like a discussion.
I appreciate that. I feel like that's something that that's definitely something that I can take away from to use as well. Cause that's like in photography, like you're sitting down with a subject, especially portraiture photography. It's something that I've really wanted to start doing more again, where you're sitting down with some other person and you're going to take their portrait, but how do you get them to show their real self? Like, how do you get them comfortable, and because nobody likes sitting in front of a camera.
Intimacy.
Yeah.
How do you invite intimacy, connection, relationship there so that they'll drop that veil, that mask of professionalism or like beauty or optimal.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I could see you being a really strong portrait photographer. Mm. Like I could see you once you figure out the technique and you master it, like I could see you succeeding in that, inviting someone into your space and saying, all right, I'm going to take your portrait, and getting them to show those areas that they may not show somebody else, but because you're using your techniques that feel so inviting, I think that you'd be able to get those strong portraits of somebody where they may look at it and be like I didn't know that was me, because they don't show the real world like that.
Yeah,
that could be interesting.
There is a part of me that wants to have that same impact here in the interview format.
I could totally see that. Yeah.
And I mentioned this to you when we were climbing the other day, that soft white underbelly, that podcast I watch. I think that guy has a beautiful eye, and the way that he relates to the folks, it's something that I look up to and think, yeah, man, that guy's doing it.
And but it's also interesting because he started as a photographer.
Yeah.
And so he has that trade and skill of working in the industry and working with people and having to, because especially, and I don't know too much of his photography background, but especially once you get into mainstream portraiture, say you're gonna take a photo of either an athlete or a celebrity, a big name, those people don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
They're not gonna come in and say, I got 2 hours, let's sit down and have a photo session. They got 10 minutes. And so you become a master at having somebody come in for 10 minutes and say, hey, you have to have some sort of technique to get them to be able to be comfortable for you. So you could take a photo that's going to be on the cover of a magazine that
Oof.
they're going to be like, oh, that's a cool cover, rather than being like this is a picture of me on the cover of this magazine, and being like, you have to have that. So it's a lot of pressure, and you have to have some of that. So I could see why he excels at like bringing people in and like being able to like get them to talk about themselves.
Yeah. Do you feel nervous now?
Mm-mm.
Talking to me?
No. Yeah.
Okay, we'll start. I've been starting with everybody, and I'll do the same with you. Starting from the beginning. Cole gets born in a town. Where were you born?
Palmdale, California.
Did you live in Palmdale for most of your life, or did you move around?
No, yeah, I lived there until until I graduated college. So I lived there. I came back for a little bit. So I'd say like 20 years or something.
Where's Palmdale?
It's where did you live in California?
Los Angeles.
In LA proper?
Yeah, well, I lived in beach cities, so I lived in Redondo for a little bit. Then I lived in K-Town, and then I lived in Hollywood, in the flats, and then in the Hollywood Hills.
Okay, yeah, I have an aunt who lives in Redondo Beach.
Oh, yeah.
So Palmdale, Lancaster, they're two cities side by side, kind of, I don't know what that would be similar to here, but it's basically northeast of LA, so it's actually still LA County. Mm-hmm. So it's still considered, LA County is just freaking massive. It's up and over those mountains that if the beach and then you're looking at the mountains, the other side of those mountains is the high desert. Yeah. I lived in the high desert.
Okay. Yeah. Mount Baldy. I used to hike at Mount Baldy. Is it on the other side of that?
On the other side of Mount, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was a great hike spot. So you were there until you graduated college.
Yeah, I mean, until I graduated high school, and then I moved to the East Coast and went to school on the East Coast. Then I moved back to Palmdale.
Yeah.
Lived in Palmdale for a little bit.
What was the family dynamic like in your household? Brothers, sisters,
one
mother,
brother,
father. Yeah, what was it like?
Super healthy. Yeah, I feel like the typical like American, like what you think like a family should be is like what I like. Luckily, like I'm like super grateful for the upbringing that I had. Like mom, dad, they're still together. And brother lived with him, all under their one roof. It was kind of like I don't know, or I mean, I guess I don't really have anything to relate it to, as more or less of just like your typical things that you feel like happen when you grow up. You get in trouble, you're disciplined, you're not like I had one of those like healthy family dynamics where if I got in trouble, like I had discipline put into place so that I would learn from that mistake, rather than going the opposite direction, maybe, and rebelling and like being one of those kids that like, I don't know, like it was like I lived in the town that I lived in was, since it wasn't like it was like a sprawling suburb city, so it wasn't like there wasn't a lot to do as kids. And so it was like one of those things where it's like yeah, you could go one way or the other way. Like you could get mixed into the wrong crowd and stay in the wrong, like there's a lot of friends I had in high school that did get into drugs and alcohol and maybe go down that way. And for me, for some reason, I think that I just had that, I don't know, just different maybe life values that my parents enlisted in me, and maybe I just had good distractions. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm.
So you identified as a good kid.
I mean, until, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's a good explanation. Like, but I mean, I still like got in trouble. I think my parents disciplined me enough to realize that I shouldn't do things. Whereas like one story, for example, is like once I started getting into high school, I would sneak out a lot as a kid and go. But it's funny because I wouldn't sneak out to like go drink alcohol or do drugs.
What did you sneak out for?
To go skate. And so it was like, but like that was another core pillar of my life that kept me from a lot of things, was skateboarding. Like that literally pointed my direction in the way of like I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go skate. It was one of those things that like really influenced me and who I am like today. But like, so I'd go sneak out with my friends. We'd go skate at 2 a.m. because we all wanted to go skate at 2 a.m. We thought it was a great idea. Mm-hmm. and then the cops pick us up and send us home and give us curfew tickets, and then I get grounded for like an entire summer. And so it's like things like that where it's like, dang, like that stinked. I'm not gonna sneak out anymore. But yeah,
I always think of skating as a punk or like an illegal act, like that skating goes hand in hand with drugs and all that other stuff, and you're giving me a real new viewpoint on it.
well, it's actually interesting because right now skateboarding is in such a different place, and I still skateboard like once a week or something.
You do?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It's a practice that I like. It is really important. Like a lot of my best friendships are from skateboarding that I've had that are lifelong friendships that I still have today are from this like amazing experience. And like that's why I gravitate towards climbing more too, because I can relate it really easily to skateboarding. It feels the same. I gain the same friendships. I keep, you know what I mean? It's almost goes hand in hand. But skateboarding got a really bad rap for a long time. And it's funny to see it now because it's in the Olympics now. Like you can be a professional skateboarder for the United States of America and win an Olympic gold medal nowadays. Whoa. Whereas like back in when I started skating in the early 2000s, it was a very rebellious thing where like we'd go sneak into a school and skate, and then the cops get called on you, and then you're running from the cops, and then you have to get away from that because you don't want to get a ticket for trespassing. And so it's like, but it's funny because that type of skateboarding still exists as well. So it's like this this huge scale of like you could be skateboarding at a skate park and get really good at this place that is designed for skateboarding and then take it to the Olympics. Or you could grow up in a small town that doesn't have a skate park. You're skating a school and you get really good, and then you maybe move into some realm and you go to the Olympics. And then there could be two people side by side that like from two different, like completely different places.
Yeah. In the nuts and bolts of it, it's exercise.
Yeah.
And there's this cultural stigma of we don't want them exercising next to the school, or this idea maybe that the practice of it is destructive in some way on rails or some way on it changes the nature of the structures. Is that why they wouldn't want it there?
Yeah, I mean the main reason that you would get ticketed or you'd get kicked out, most places you just get kicked out and people are just like, get out of here, like please leave. The main reasons is insurance reasons. Is like, oh, like this kid's gonna fall and then he's gonna sue this thing and then this, and then the second reason is vandalism. Is you're clearly just like defacing like something that the school or the different something spent a lot of money to build. And that's why like you go around and you see those curbs and you see those big metal things stuck on them.
Yeah,
it's because they're trying to make you not skate them.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the finances in the household when you were growing up? Was your dad the breadwinner? Was your mom a stay-at-home mom? What was how did the money work at home?
I'd say I come from like a traditional like father is the breadwinner family. My mom definitely worked, but she was she was a stay-at-home mom in a sense of like my dad they both worked at the same company. That's how they met. And then when they had me and my brother, she decided to stay at home, and to make up the finances, she opened a daycare center in her house. So it's like that was like kind of like how they like both worked and was able to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
But then I think she retired a little bit earlier than my dad, and then my dad was the primary breadwinner for like mostly through high school.
Who was the disciplinarian in the house?
My dad.
Your dad.
Yeah.
And your mom was like the nurturer, the classic, like mom's a nurturer, dad's a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
That was the setup.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? What was your mom like?
Oh, she's a sweetheart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definite. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like as far as like a mama's boy who like calls her mom all the time, but it's like I don't know, your mom always has a sweet spot for you, you know? I feel like that's the and I could be thinking too like stereotypical or too logically in a sense of you definitely see the connection of when you have boys, the boys tend to go towards the mom for a more caregiver, but if you have like, and you could correct me because you have daughters, whereas you see daughters go towards more the dad for the caregiver. Like I don't know, like that's just kind of like what I've observed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When how did your mom nurture you? How did your mom kind of stoke your creativity and your adventure? How did that happen for you? How did she support your skating? Did she support other things that you were interested in? And a little bit how? Like what did it look like?
Once I started getting into skating, I went to the skate park every single day. My mom would after I get out of school, we'd hop. My mom had a Volkswagen Bug, you know, the newer ones.
Yeah.
She had one of those. We'd hop in that thing. She would drive us to the skate park, drop us off, pick us up. So we would stay there till like 10 p.m. like every night. So get out of school, as long as my homework was done, go to the skate park, skate till like 10. Mom would pick us up, take us back home. And then eventually I started getting older, and the skate park like started becoming, because that's another place where like you drop your kids at the skate park, which is really cool because you give them all of that responsibility to being on their own.
Yeah.
But man, there's like most skate parks, it's like they're great, but they're also like some of them are not in the best places of town, and there's a lot of drugs, and there's a lot like, so it's like you have to trust your kids to be like into that and not like say no, say yes. And so eventually the skate park started getting really like not the best place to be, so all my friends started coming over to my house, and I had like a really large front sidewalk that we all skated on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a cul-de-sac, and a lot of the neighbors, like some of them were stoked, but some of them were not stoked that all these kids started like showing up on the street skating every single day. We were there like every single day. And then all of a sudden, like you start seeing like cop cars driving up into a cul-de-sac, like a suburban neighborhood cul-de-sac. And the cop car just comes up, drives up, comes through around the corner, and my mom runs out of the house, like opens the door, runs out of the house, and starts screaming at this police officer.
Whoa.
And we're all just like looking at and it's funny because my friends, who I'm all good friends with to this day, still remember that day, because they were just like, man, that's so cool that your mom like told off that police officer who was trying to like
shut you down,
who was trying to come up, and say that what were we doing wrong? We were in front of in front of our house, where my mom is like these are my kids playing in front of my house. Like, who gives you the right to come up and start like discriminating them just for being like skateboarders, just for hanging out? And it was like that to me, like that is a good representation of like who my mom is, in a sense of like saying like she fully supports what I do, and like that's like seeing that is I think like was a good understanding of like, all right, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So there's one aspect is facilitating your sport, driving you to the skate parks and bringing you back, and this other part of like fiercely framing what you were doing for others, like authority figures, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah.
These are kids playing,
Yeah.
exercising, moving their body, which how are you going to turn moving your body into a negative? Did you talk to your mom about it? Like when you got your first kickflip or whatever, did you share your excitement with the sport with your mom?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I think once I started getting into like middle school, high school, it starts to be the rebel age of like, you know, doing my own thing. Like I'm, you know, hanging out with my friends. If anything, sharing skateboarding was more with my dad, because my dad's a skateboarder. So like that's the whole reason why I like started skating. Was when I was a young kid, my dad would go to the skate park. He'd bring me and my brother. So then we would start skating, and so we would go, and so we'd skate all the time. Like even before I started moving around, like I still, like up to like when I was like 20, I don't think my dad skates that much anymore, but up to when I was like 28 or something, I'd still go to the skate park with my dad.
Yeah. Then you went to school. When did you get into photography? How did photography start to come into your life? Like where did it oh, it was going in and taking pictures with your dad's camera while y'all were skating.
Yeah. I mean, that's why when I said earlier, like skateboarding has been one of those pillars for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it was like skateboarding is like it's either a sport, an activity, but I would argue enough that it is an art form.
Absolutely.
Like it is a form of art. And the reason that like there is an industry for skateboarding is because a lot of like in the early days skate videos would come out, and so you'd be watching these really good skateboarders. So the common thread of young skateboarders is to go out and document your skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be like skating. Finally, one of our friends had the money to get a video camera, and that was the natural progression of, all right, let's go out into the streets and film our skateboarding.
Yeah.
And so like before I even started in photography, we were holding like camcorders, like filming us skateboarding and doing all these tricks. And then eventually it was like, oh, my dad's got a film camera. Let me take the film camera with us. And now I'm going to also take pictures. And it's interesting because I started taking a lot of skateboarding pictures, but then I stopped because I wanted to skateboard. And so it became a transition where like I found this thing that I really, really enjoyed and was like, this thing is cool. I like seeing if I get it right or get it wrong. Once I get it wrong, I need to figure out how to get it right. And then you start doing it. But then we're going on all these skate trips, and I have this already pre-built passion for skateboarding. Mm-hmm. So when we go to this thing, I'm like, nah, and I'll put my camera down and I'll go skate because I have much more like drive and passion to do that. And so then I had to find out a way to do this without having them both conflict.
Yeah.
And so that's when I like just started taking photos of anything other than skateboarding, because I knew that if I was going to go out and bring my camera skateboarding, I wasn't going to want to take pictures.
You want to skateboard.
I was just going to want to skateboard.
Same with like rock climbing. You're not going to want to take a camera and go to rock climbing.
See, that's the same issue that I'm having. And I would love, like, there's been multiple times where we've gone out to the crag and I've been like, I've grabbed my camera and put it on the counter and say, I'm going to take my camera out.
Yeah.
And I just leave it. So I think there's still like a blockage there, whereas like I'll probably bring it out a few times, but like or like big multi pitches, I definitely bring a camera with me and and document it. But ever since I got into climbing, I've only been shooting film when I've been climbing. So I won't bring a digital camera.
When you think about your photography career, what have been your monumental achievements?
I mean, graduating school was a huge monumental achievement. Like the schooling that I went to was a trade school. I didn't go to a 4-year. Mm-hmm. Like I just went straight to a college that was completely dedicated to photography.
You got a degree in photography?
I don't have a degree.
Well,
no. I got a certificate.
You got a certificate in photography.
Yeah. And so like completing that was a huge milestone for me. But I think one of the main milestones that I like, or goals that I set for myself, was like, I think I told myself like by 25, like you have to be like fully working and supporting yourself through photography. And that was like when I was like working at Jamba Juice. I eventually got a job at a skate shop. And so I was working at a skate shop I worked there for like 3 years. And at the same time I was like doing photography, like working jobs on the side, like shooting weddings, shooting commercial jobs, like doing different stuff. And my main goal was like, by 25, you have to, like, you can't, like, I didn't want to be working any other job.
You're
like
making your living off of photography by 25.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And did you do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it.
What was your next monumental achievement? So the first one was graduating from the trade school. You got a certificate in photography. The second one was making a living off of photography.
I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of them, but the other main one would be like, we're sitting here where I'm sitting right now, like living in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. Like that's literally what brought me out here.
It's photography.
And
you were excited to come to Austin.
Oh yeah.
It's like a get, or like a.
It was more of a how do I like how do I continue to make a living in photography, because like that is like essentially like that is the goal, and the route that I'm working in is such a unique route, whereas like I'm currently an in-house photographer, so I work for a company, and I am like I'm their sole like in-house photographer. And so there's a bunch of different avenues. Some people don't like being in-house, some people like doing freelance, some people, it's just such a complex field where you can do a lot of different things in the field. And me wanting to be an in-house photographer just because by nature I just like that stability of like having health insurance and like all the rest of that type of stuff. In order to do that, it creates a much smaller job pool, and so it becomes one of those niche like markets. And so just like wanting to continue like working for this studio, but they're only willing to value photography this much, and then finding those correct like employers that actually do value what you do, and being able to find an employer like who I'm with now, like I completely like love the company, like what they're behind, and the fact that they value creativity to the extent that they value it, makes me confident and excited to do my job. The fact that they want to push the boundaries on creativity, the fact that they actually want to divert finances to creativity, like shows me that like they actually appreciate like what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, for a little bit, I'd like to. So, how could I learn from you in some of the time we have left? I think we have. Oh, we got a lot of time. Yeah, we got about 27 minutes or a little bit more than that. How can I learn from you, from your journey? You've got 10,000 plus hours as a photographer now.
Yeah.
You've been behind the camera. You've got a ton of mileage. How would you impart some of that on someone? I guess I'll start by doing a daily practice of documenting my world, and maybe, I don't know, what comes to mind first is maybe sharing that on Instagram or some way of sharing out the pictures I take, which I've never really done.
Do you have social media?
I have it, but I don't use it.
How do you feel about it?
Social media, I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to live my life outside of social media as much as I can, and use it maybe the same way you think of camera at your work, like as a tool for, yeah, I'd use it as a tool, but I kind of want to be out in the world. I want to be in my life. I want to be living in nature. I want to be at the crag with you climbing, or at the bouldering gym with folks. I want real life experiences.
I think that's important. Yeah. How do you, well then, because I mean, I would assume that you're, instead of like, because I mean, right now you'd have like, there's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but then there's also YouTube, which is like an important social media. And so that I could see you living on the YouTube space, but it's definitely that I could definitely, that's a tricky subject.
The subject of how does a photographer, a new person, start practicing the art form, or interacting with social media? Which subject?
I just went down the wrong way. I was going.
No, that's
through
fine.
Social media.
Where were you going? Like?
I was talking about social media. In
Yeah.
In the sense of like being a creator, and like I could foresee you starting to come up with that like battling with social media as a creator. Yeah.
Gosh, I guess if I had my druthers, if I thought about the perfect world, I would create. I'd do a ton of these interviews, and I'd go out and take a ton of pictures. I'd do my tantra. I would do all the things that I'm excited about, and I get enlivened by people like you. I meet with you, and I get you like seed me with passion and enthusiasm, and part of my journey is this ADHD, this neurodivergence, which has me like a bee or like a hummingbird, going with intensity and passion to each one, and getting a lot of nectar, and then kind of moving on.
Okay.
Not as someone who I probably won't do it. I don't know. Well, I don't
I
know.
like that because I think the struggle that I think myself and a lot of creators have nowadays is like I love creating. Like that's like a photographer or anything. Like creating is like such a great thing. Like right now, like you're creating something great, but that creation has to have a landing zone. It has to have a strip,
A distribution.
it needs
some way to.
it needs like not only like you want it to get to the people, not for like clout or not for anything. It's just you're trying to give this thing
Gift.
yeah, and it needs, and unfortunately the space that it needs to land is in one of those very like there's very positive things about it and there's very toxic things about it, but it still needs to land somewhere.
Yeah. I think about how can I contribute to the world, to our culture, to our society in a positive way, a way that adds value to people's lives. And it does seem like these social media companies are the vehicle for that. I don't know that there's a way to get around that. So I imagine I'll figure out how to interact with YouTube and all of them, or I'll find folks to join my team that they are passionate about that and that they can do that. In my mind, I just thought, oh, this would be a perfect business. Get a group of kids that love all those and have them get plugged in with creators to just love the creation. And it's kind of like one person is doing the thing that they're passionate about, and then you've got this other whole distribution side that's probably younger. The folks that hold the key to those, probably younger folks. Maybe that's ageism, but
yeah, it definitely makes me rethink and really wish that like people would appreciate like print more often, or like I don't know if you're a film, like going to the actual movie theater and seeing the film in a sense. Just because it's like everything is so accessible nowadays, like you wish, especially in photography, like I wish print would be taken a little bit more seriously.
Is that like going to a art gallery and seeing it in that
I mean,
showing?
going to an art gallery, releasing a book, just something substantial where you're actually looking at like the photograph like in print form, whether it be in a book or in a gallery, where you can actually like see, like experience it in a form where you're trying to experience it the way the photographer meant to have you experience it, instead of this controlled way that somebody else has control over.
Yeah. I had this idea. I'll propose or ask if this conversation could continue outside of this interview and be a photographic conversation where maybe I could share with you some of the things I'd take. And you could say no, a part of me doesn't want to burden anyone, but
No,
I
I'm
wonder
down.
if there's a way that we continue this in some way.
Yeah.
And I could have some level of mentorship, obviously not an intern or something like that, but some way to be influenced by you.
You know, I'd be willing to do that, but I think that you should let me take your portrait.
You would take my portrait.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, heck yeah, dude.
Nice.
For real?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it at the studio where we got all the lights and stuff, or do you want to do it where would you want to do it?
I don't know, wherever. We can figure it out later.
Oh man, I just got nervous.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
extreme gratitude that you would want to do that.
Oh yeah, no.
Extreme
I think
gratitude.
Well, I think that lands in the same realm of I'm just a being who wants to create.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, portraiture is something I've been wanting to get back into. And it's mainly like shooting with like my film camera. Like it's a really big camera where you have to get all the like everything right. You got to focus it. You got to like, so it's like that's been something I've been thinking of, but in a sense it's like oh, like I'd be totally down to like take your portrait. We can learn, we can walk through it together. You can take some photos. We can like talk about it, you know, we can.
I'm a heck yeah out of that.
Nice.
I'm a F yeah out of that. I notice in these interviews I'm cussing less than I would normally.
Really? Well, is it? Are you trying? Is it trying to be like a more like PG or
Well,
more?
I think about beeping stuff later in the edit.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want anybody to change their demeanor. Like,
Okay.
you be your full expression. I
Uh-huh.
just noticed that now when I'm sharing it.
Okay.
There's this way I would have said like "fuck yeah," but now I'm saying "heck yeah" or
Okay.
"f yeah."
Okay.
Eh,
Yeah.
we digress.
Yeah, that's very impressive multitasking. The fact that you're having this conversation, but you're externally thinking about how it's gonna sound later.
Yeah. Oh man, super grateful that you would consider taking my portrait. That's amazing.
If you're down, I would love to.
I'm totally down.
Okay,
we'll just
cool.
schedule it and make it happen. I think of you. We've known each other for probably what, a couple months.
Yeah, probably only a few. I haven't even been. I think I've only. Let's see, September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, I've only been in Austin 4 months.
Did you come to the Monster Rock when you first got here? Like when?
That was like the first month. I think that was like the first or second month I moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have been September or October.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of you as like a super confident, passionate, like competent climber. Like when I think of you on the crag, I think like if Cole's coming, the rope's going to get up there. Like if I want to top rope stuff, Cole's going to get it to the top.
Oh, wow.
Draws are never going to get left behind. And I will, if I could always climb with folks like you, I think I'd be doing well for myself.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Because
that's, I mean, I definitely don't think that way.
you don't, well, how do you think?
I just, I don't know. I mean, I can see the way you're viewing me as in a sense of like, yes, I am trying to think of those things always like in a sense like, oh yeah, when we're leaving the crag, like leave no trace. Like we can't leave anything here. Did anybody leave a beaner? Unless it's a bail beaner that like you need to.
I'm talking about like you're going to get to the top of the route.
Oh.
I mean like your skills, your passion, your energy and strength, your competence in rock climbing, you're going to get to the top of it, whether it's a 5'11", whether it's a 5'12", it's going to happen.
I don't know about 5'12". Yeah. I mean, I do appreciate that because I have been in this realm once I moved out here as like a more like dedicated towards climbing than I ever have been in my life. So like I feel like before I moved out here I teetered between photography, skateboarding, and climbing, and I would jump between all three of them.
Yeah.
And since I moved to Austin, I've been a little bit more on the climber side.
Yeah. I've been focusing more on climbing, and climbing's one thing where I made that statement earlier about going from one thing to the other in my life, but I climbed in college. It's something I love doing, and I've been focused on it more now too.
Awesome.
Climbing on Wednesdays and Fridays with folks indoors, and then climbing with you guys whenever I can, outdoors and indoors. And it's something I'm getting better at.
Yeah.
And I think it's from climbing with stronger folks like you and Kevin, and
yeah.
you know, just really enjoying that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That brings up a conversation around supporting people, like supporting folks. How do you see your role as? Because I imagine in our group. Oh yeah, how do you see yourself in our group, and how do you see our group of people, like personalities and characters?
Yeah, I think I've always, I don't know. I thought it was so because I just feel like like, was that the first time we all met? Like, I don't really know.
It was.
So that
100%.
So
we all met the first time at Monster
so
Rock.
that-
David had never invited me out climbing. I climbed with David at the ACC Mesa Rim night. That's the American
Alpine Club.
AAC, right? The Alpine Club. And I'd never climbed outside with him. I'd never met you. I'd never met. Was Paul at the first one?
Paul, I think, knew David, I think, a little bit.
So it was new to me. So for me, that all came together, and then we had Caleb a little bit later.
Yeah.
And now
Joe. Yeah. Yeah,
which is our firebrand, I think. Anyway, what do you think about that? Our little like tribe of folks.
I think I've been really enjoying how just watching the progression of like us just like becoming more and more comfortable with each other.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's interesting because I for some reason like was under the influence that y'all knew each other already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just felt more of like an outsider, like all right, like these are people who have a repertoire already, and I'm just like jumping in, you know, like and just climbing with them. Luckily it's we all share this great passion for climbing, especially passion outside, which is great, which drives us to hang out a lot. The one thing that we have in common is just like it's just that's kind of what I go back to, like, and relate it to skateboarding a lot, is like it's this thing that like brings us together, and we're all individually focused and driven about it, and in return that makes us support each other at like climbing, because we can relate when you're climbing up something and you're having that visceral feeling of climbing, and we're just like, I know exactly how he feels right now. He's stoked. Yeah. And it's like, I'm stoked for you because like when you held that hold, it's like you were excited about it.
Yeah.
And I knew how that felt.
Yeah. When you find like that the right jug hold, it'll get you up the next move.
Yep.
It's like there is like oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, I love our group of climbers. I feel a lot of support. I feel a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah.
And it's not always like PC. And that comes, I think, through intimacy. Like we'll joke around about racism, or we'll joke around about different things. I want to skirt this really lightly, because what happens there on the crag and how we share, it's almost only happens in the vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would be able to exist in a world where we had oversight from the masses.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's a sloppiness with language. Mm-hmm. There's a sloppiness, and in that sloppiness is the intimacy, is this comfort and safety.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's definitely that aspect of it definitely was new to me, in a sense of new in a way of like oh, like it's interesting that they like feel compelled to get this like what was it like dang, it wasn't the word that I'm trying to think of. Openness about it, in a sense. Vulnerability, that's what I'm thinking of. Like everybody in there is like willing to like show this vulnerability with each other. And so it's like, oh, like this is like, I think that's why it feels like we're sticking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no one's really like everyone's like down to keep climbing and keep hanging out. It's because I think we all can kind of feel that sense of vulnerability.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about all you can eat sushi night. Oh my God.
I think that was another instance where like I was like trying to like vibe out like I knew we had talked about it. I didn't know if it was like I didn't know if anybody was actually joking about it, or if Paul was like literally like sure shot like we're doing this. And so I didn't know what was gonna happen, but it was like we're all, you know, we're along for the ride. Like let's have a sushi eating adventure together.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, like we all ended up doing it.
You got passionate there, because you remember Dave at the crag had the thing where Reimer's Ranch is the same distance as Medicine Wall, and like there's just no way. So I was real confident, and I got almost aggressively excited about it. Like you need to say you're wrong now. And it seemed like at sushi night you reached that level of passion and intensity.
That's funny. Well, because I think that we were all, I could just, first off, I could totally see myself teetering out. Like after the second round, I wasn't there. But then, and that's the thing, is like I knew myself I was not going to eat another full table of fish.
Oh my God.
But when when the waitress came back over and Paul says I'll have 10 of this and 10 of this, and you say I'll have 5 of this and 5 of this, and somebody else says I'll have 5 of this, I'm literally just thinking like, there's absolutely no way. Like, why?
You're like, I'm eating some more fish because you're ride or die with the team, or
Well,
what was it like for you?
Well, I think it was more of like a I could see Joe teetering out. Like he did not, like he was done. And he looked very like I'm not eating any more fish.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, I know he's not. I'm maybe gonna only eat a few. And you seemed like you were just down for whatever. You were like open to the experience.
I was gonna do what needed to be done there.
And it also, but it was interesting because Caleb seemed just determined to eat more because he was ordering just a lot more.
He was like in a competition.
And
like,
but same thing with like, I think Caleb and Paul were on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was maybe a little bit in front of, like Joe seemed out. I was a little bit in front of Joe, especially once he ordered the beer. I was like, he's out because that's gonna fill his stomach.
Oh yeah,
fully. And so I was all right, he's done. And so then I was looking at you and I was like, you're definitely gonna eat some. And I was like, I'm only gonna eat a little. And so then I was just doing the math in my head and I was like, all right, I think we can do this.
Oh man, that's so funny. Okay, coming back to what we're discussing here, and that's like, it's kind of photography and friendship when I think about at least my relationship to you and how we vibe. And I can see a lot how skating and climbing is similar, and I can almost see a little bit how skating and climbing can relate to photography. But how do you relate those? How do they all work together in your life? How is photography the outlier, or one of these things is not like the other type of thing? Like, do you do photography with folks? Do you have a tribe or a flock of folks that go together and do photography?
No. It's been a very, I don't think I've ever had that in my life, which I know people do that. Like I know a lot of like people I've worked with, like they have friends who they go out and shoot photos with. Like, oh, I guess I have with like coworkers and whatnot, but I've never been on like a hey, let's meet up and like let's go out to this park and take photos.
Yeah.
I don't know why that, to me, like I think meeting up with friends and taking photos, I would need a mission or a goal to do it rather than to just like go out and create with somebody. I think that I usually hold a little bit more personal. Mm-hmm. So it's like if I'm gonna go out to like a street or something, or a section where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna find a photo today just because I think that sounds fun and I want to create. I'll most likely do that by myself.
Yeah.
If I was gonna go out and take photos with friends, I think it would be more of like a hey, like let's come up with this cool project, or let's create this thing, or hey, let's take this photo and then we'll all kind of like bounce around it, or like take turns taking photos of this thing or something. I don't know. I've never had too much of that camaraderie with photography outside of working in the industry and like more sharing what we have taken. So like the last studio that I worked in was like a really like it was a relaxed studio. It was a little bit less structured, so there was a lot more room for creativity, whereas a lot of my like fellow photographers that worked in the studio, we all shot personally, and then we would come back and share with each other the photos that we've taken. So we worked more or less as like a let's meet up and like share what we've done. Like that's something that I think would be really cool. Like I think a few of my friends have talked about like having nights where you'd like put up a projector and say like, hey, this month this is what I took this month, and then you would have this whole camaraderie. Like that sounds really interesting to me, more than actually going out with somebody and taking photos with. Like I'd rather do that where like
a show and tell aspect.
A show and tell aspect, because then you're like, oh my gosh, like that's really cool that you saw this and this and that. Rather than being out there like trying to like find a photo over here and then your friends over here trying to, there's no camaraderie right there.
Yeah.
You're both doing two different things and then you're coming back. Like I'd rather go out and then come back and then be like, all right, let's have like a discussion.
Do you have a photographer crew here in Austin?
Mm-mm.
No.
No. Nope.
Sad face.
Yeah.
But you have a photographer crew in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot. Yeah, I have. I mean, luckily enough, my girlfriend's a photographer, so we both bounce. Actually, no, that's interesting that you say that because I didn't even think about that. But me and my girlfriend used to go out and create photos together all the time.
So we just found the exception to what you just said.
Yeah, I didn't. But in a sense, she wasn't creating. She was more modeling for me. So we would come up with the idea together. And then say, hey, like I'm thinking about this cool concept of a photo of like you in this type of dress out on this big hill. Like let's go out and create the photo. And then we'd go out together and create that photo.
Yeah. But you were the photographer, she was the model, so you were acting in separate like disciplines.
Yeah, we weren't really, but she has that experience in her head. So it was like a bouncing creative off of each other.
Yeah. So she was influencing you, and she was influencing the shots. By giving input.
It was like a collaboration,
Heck
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, this question popped up, and I wrote it down. One thing I'm noticing as an interviewer, like you'll talk, and I'll have this spark, and I don't know if this is just because I'm neurodivergent or if this is all humans. Like I want to capture that spark, so I can talk to you about it when you're done. Mm-hmm. But if I don't find a way to, I need to write it down. Otherwise, a part of me is using the energy to store it and not giving you my full attention. And I don't think that's great from an interviewer perspective. I wonder if I should improv it and if the sparks have to come in the pauses.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm wondering.
Maybe you. I mean, I think that you. Yeah, maybe you need to write down one word instead of one word question and just like say like the one word that sticks out to you and then write it down.
Yeah.
Because if you write the whole sentence, you're unplugged.
I'm looking out and like logging, like checking out from you. This is something I'll grow and learn and fail.
I mean, maybe
as an interviewer.
Yeah, maybe you're going to get to a point where you don't even need that anymore and it's just going to stick in your head.
It takes some kind of inertia or some kind of energy to hold it there. And that's part of my attention is like, remember that? We're going to remember that. We're going to remember that. And when he stops talking, we're going to ask that. We're going to remember that.
I mean,
here's what I wrote down.
You never know.
I wrote down levels of photo, climbing 5'9", 5'10", 5'11". And I started thinking like, you know, in skateboarding, it's probably like roll on a skateboard, ollie, kick flip. I don't know what the levels are, but what are levels in photography? Do you have that same? Is there a more beginner, intermediate, advanced, and if so, what are they?
Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, there's definitely a natural progression that you take, let's say in similar ways, but like in photography, it would be more of like, I mean, taking a picture to, I don't know, like understanding the picture. I feel like it's my natural progression is more of like starting, you take a picture and then say 10 years down the line, would I take that same picture? If I look back on it, I could possibly say no, I would rather take this picture instead of like, I don't know. That's a tough one.
It doesn't seem like it doesn't map as closely as it would.
It doesn't
like,
map as
I'm
closely.
doing a 5'8", and then I'm doing a 5'9", and then because in it I get
it's
better.
More, I mean, you get, there is a natural progression.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's linear like climbing or skateboarding is. It's more like, yes, you progress, but you start to pick up different techniques and different anecdotes or whatever. You pick up, I'd say, let's see. Let me see how I can explain it. Say you're a climber and you're climbing a 5'9", and you're climbing up this climb and you're doing it with like your butt hanging down and your elbows out, and you get to the top.
Yeah.
but you're doing it like you're looking like a monkey.
Right.
And then a month goes by, you climb the same 5'9", you get to the top, but you're doing it in a much more slow, controlled, like you're hanging from one side, your arms straight, you get up there, and it's much more easier. I'd say that's more of the progression in photography, whereas like your technique and your like the creativity that you build off of understanding the frame, and if I'm going to take one picture and it looks okay, but you're going to come back a year later and take that same picture, you're going to have a distinct style that you've gained from the last year.
Yeah.
You're going to have a unique outlook on that same thing than you've had last year. And so you're going to get the same picture, but the reason it's going to look different is because your creativity has like adapted in a sense. Like you've become your own you've created your own style that is unique to you, whether that's been influenced by something or not. But you're going to take the same picture, but it's going to come out differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense. All right. Anything you want to talk about before we wrap up? What do you think I should know as someone, or anything that we haven't discussed about photography or friendship or?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've really enjoyed this time together.
No, I have too. I definitely was really excited when you asked me to come on. Especially, I think I've just been more excited seeing your drive behind it, and seeing like how you're ready to go and do it, and especially like you're just like you grabbed all the gear and you're just doing it. It's not like a yes, you've been taught on it, but you're doing, you know what I mean? And like I think that's more of what I see in what I admire about you, is the fact that like yes, you may fail, or yes, you may succeed, but the fact that you're doing it is like, it goes back to like when I was talking about just having fun. It's like the fact that you're always putting work into it is going to show you that you're going to get something back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I notice when I get done with these interviews, I feel high. I feel elated.
Okay.
I feel like excited about what was captured, or the time I shared with someone, or and that's inspiring, or that is the inertia. It's the fuel for continuance. It's kind of like fun was the fuel for continuance. Yeah. What was it in photography? It was like grabbing that first skate shot.
Yeah, there's so much. It's literally, I think it's I get that a lot when I shoot weddings.
You do?
Yeah, it's interesting enough because that's like a lot of people in the photography industry, weddings are their own niche, and they've always been it's always like something where people look at it at like it has somewhat of a photography stigma to it.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like weddings are just like grunt work, or just like
that's what people think.
Yeah,
a lot of people think that, and so it's interesting because wedding photography is it's one of the easiest avenues to get into, to getting paid as a photographer. But I think that it's like, I've been doing it for like 11 years now. I think it's unique in a way of like, how do you really treat it? Like, how do you really experience a wedding photographer? And for me, I experience it as my like way of turning my like creativityness towards these people. I have absolutely no clue who they are. I meet them for the first time, and they invite me into such an intimate space of their life to document such a, whether it be intimate day, stressful day, hectic day, like great day, but no matter what, like I'm there to create something out of that day. And and for me, I have a lot of pressure in myself to make it a really creative image, or like I shoot most of my weddings on film because I want to document them in a more timeless manner. Whereas like some wedding photographers, they're there to work, photos, boom, batch edits, boom, here's your wedding images, that's what you get. Whereas for me, it's a little bit more where like I want to be able to like take a cool picture of like someone's hand on grandma's shoulder, but like really like how do you make that photo look like it's gonna have weight to it, where it's like they're gonna look at that and be like, oh my gosh, like why does this photo like have a lot of weight to it, rather than just a picture of a bride and groom standing next to each other.
That's that thing I heard you say earlier of emotionality.
Yeah.
Like you want a picture that really tells a story and elicits an emotion in the viewer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's art.
Yeah. I think that's why like that, I think that's why I still do that. It's like I'm still like I work a full-time job as a photographer, and like I love what I do, but some of it doesn't give me that emotion, and so I still need that in my life. I think that's for me working as a photographer. I've always known that like I'm gonna need that like creative like food, and so whether I get a job that's like oh like I'm just like in the studio taking pictures of like product on white, and it's just like, yeah, I'm getting it done, I'm using my skills to give me a living, but I'm gonna like get depressed if I don't get some creative food. So I need some outlet to like create a photo that like means something, and so that's like the same thing with like putting it out there. Like it needs to land somewhere where like it needs to have a place to go. Like it's like I need to create something. It's like a cycle. I need to create something, and then it needs to go somewhere. And like I just need to keep doing that in order to like be fulfilled in that like realm.
Yeah. At work, you're an artist. At weddings, you're an artist. And obviously in your personal photography, you're an artist. Is that true?
I've actually never really thought of myself as an artist.
You don't?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely, I guess I've never like put myself in that box. I don't know why.
What box do you put yourself in?
Creating. I don't know.
That's what artists do.
Yeah, I know, but that's like I appreciate photography as an art form, and I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate climbing as an art form, and I respect it. And the same thing with skateboarding, and like those things are like important to me in a sense of like I feel like they're bigger than me. So it's like I feel like I just need to like I'm just a part of it.
Yeah, you stand in awe of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I think the thought I had as we're kind of wrapping up is the more I meet folks like you and have folks like you in my life, the more value I will have in my life, and the more rich my life will be.
Mm-hmm.
I need to hang out with good kids to like kind of harken back to what we said earlier. And I do get that sense from you, like not only a calmness, but a friendliness and like a pureness. Like I don't get a negative bone. I don't get a malice or I have those bones in my body. I got those from modeled behavior when I was a kid. And so it's important. I find it important to find good people. When I'm on the dating apps, people will say like, what are you looking for? When I meet a woman, and I'll say, I'm really looking for good people first, and friendships, and like people that understand me and we can relate. And it's the same thing I'm looking for in community and friendships. It's good people.
You definitely seem like a good person. Yeah.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
So, we could wrap it up now. And I've really enjoyed this time together and talking to you. And I hope to continue this conversation. Hope to, somehow I'll do the portrait. Of course, I'll do the portrait. And, of course, we're going to climb together. And I'd like to find some way of sharing my climbing journey, or not my climbing, well, definitely climbing journey, but my photography journey with you, and getting feedback in some way, shape, or form. I interviewed a philosopher and a professor of philosophy, and we met yesterday, and he kind of had this idea of like, we would read this philosophy book and then we'd talk about it. And I don't know if I'm more excited about reading that book, because part of me does not want to read a book. I'll be honest. Like, he had 6 books. He had 6 books, and I was like, let's just pick the skinniest book, to be honest. Because I was terrified of that commitment of like having my head in a book. And I love passion and collaboration and cooperation. His passion, his excitement for it was like, I'm all in. I'm a fuck you out of this, because I think I thrive in collaborative, cooperative experiences. So I don't know how it'll unfold, but I'll invite you into some continued conversation involving photography.
Oh yeah, I'm totally down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a handshake like I just sold you a used car.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. That's it.
Nice.